Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Before we get started with another great edition of the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, I do want to let you know, Zencastr.com. That's right, Zencastr.com. They are, without a doubt, my favorite website to head over to for all of these great conversations that you hear on the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast. Superior quality in sound. Also, they have a great video option as well if you need to record your videos. But the best part about it is the files are all split separately into MP3s. So you can edit them separately, you can put them together, do whatever you got to do. The main idea is Zencastr, Zencastr.com, that's Zencastr, for all of your podcasting, video conferencing, even if you just want to have a great conversation with your loved ones. All your needs there online for communication, Zencastr has you covered. That's right.
You're locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome back to the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast. Let me tell you something, Jack. There is nothing, I mean absolutely nothing, that can spoil my mood because la mira, okay, the best of the best, the head honcho at Mission Pro Wrestling, the inspirational, the wonderful, my sister, Thunder Rosa, is your AEW Women's World Champion, okay? She destroyed that no-good Britt Baker. Billionaire Tony finally did the right thing for the first time in his entire wrestling career. As a president of a company, he finally did the right thing. He got out of his own way. Thunder Rosa is your world champion. She's my world champion. She is our world champion. I am so elated. Folks, you know from day one, Thunder Rosa is somebody who's been very special to this show, very special to me. You know, that's my friend, that's my sister. And to see her grow and to see her continue to succeed despite all of the obstacles in her way, despite the deck being stacked against her, it is just so wonderful. I mean, really, this is a fantastic time. And you know what's so cool is that look at her outfit from that Dynamite match, that main event match, that cage match. Look at her outfit, okay? Look at the way that she came to the ring. She had the mariachi band. I mean, just you talk about somebody who is the people's champ. Thunder Rosa is the people's champ 100%. Okay, DDP, you need to crown Thunder Rosa, your heir apparent. The Rock, crown Thunder Rosa, your heir apparent. Thunder Rosa is the people's champ of all people's champs. So proud, so happy, just fantastic stuff. I'm telling you, man, I'm amped up. I'm telling you, I had to have two, not one, but two Panera Bread coffees today because I am amped up about this. It's just fantastic, man. It really is. And it's a reminder that you don't have to acquiesce. You don't have to play patty cake. You don't have to play by everybody else's rules. Just be a good person, work hard, put a lot of positivity out there in the world, and let the chips fall where they may. That's exactly what has happened. Again, I am so happy. I'm so proud. Congratulations, Thunder Rosa, the entire family there, the Rosa family, I guess I'm going to call them here, the whole Mission Pro Wrestling family, anyone who has ever been in the ring with Thunder Rosa, anyone who's ever taken the time to comment on her matches, anybody who has ever bought merchandise, this is all for all of us. We've all contributed to this, okay? Fantastic. So on Cloud 9 about that, no two ways about it. Something really disturbing happened, unfortunately, since our last episode, though. Big E. On SmackDown, Big E, he ended up getting injured. Ridge Holland, he did a belly-to-belly suplex, and unfortunately, Big E landed on top of his head, broke his neck. No two ways about it. You know, his neck is broken. I think there's 2 vertebrae that's cracked. It's still not sure if he's going to need surgery, but he's in tough shape there. So, you know, there's some highs and there's some lows there. Try not to let the highs get too high, the lows get too low. But my heart goes out to Big E. I wish a speedy recovery for you, sir. Hopefully you'll be able to be healthy. And if that means that you're going to wrestle again, fantastic. But if that means that wrestling is not what you're going to be doing, then fantastic. I just want you to be healthy. I want you to be safe. I want you to live a long and prosperous life. Okay? That's right. You know, last week we had a gentleman by the name of Michael El Reyy here on the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, and he had a lot to say about the Florida independent wrestling scene. And he named names. He called some people out and said what he had to say, and it was very interesting. And I've gotten a lot of response to that, you know, a lot of response. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a voicemail from a young wrestler down in Florida who is, quite frankly, fed up with the negative rap that Florida, especially Florida indie wrestling, gets. And, you know, they have something to say about it. So check this out.
Hello, Duke. Thank you for having me on your podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Noah Vale. I wrestle as the Sex Pistol here in the Florida territory, as Duke would call it. And I really just wanted to come on and just have a little bit of a conversation that's a bit different, offer a different perspective. I've been in the wrestling business professionally for about 4 years, and I've spent quite a bit of that time in Florida as being a born and raised boy here. I think I can give a little bit of a different perspective than a lot of people who might have lived somewhere else, come down here, and so on and so forth. I've gone to other places: Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. I'm making the rounds in my youth, and one thing that I really wanted to kind of stress that I didn't hear in any of the other podcasts was a youthful perspective on Florida wrestling. And Florida as a territory, to steal your word, gets a very bad reputation, some of which is deserved, absolutely. But I also feel like some of it is a bit unjust. And the thing I really wanted to express in this moment was Florida, for all of its problems, has a lot of good. In your previous podcast, there was a discussion about the top 5 wrestling schools in the state. And I don't mean to call anyone out or anything like that, but I think that there's a couple more that should be added to that list. Chris Silvio and Matt Seidel's school, Jay Lethal, Big Con, and David Mercury's school, the Wrestling Lab, as well as Flatbacks, which is run by Sean Spears and Tyler Breeze. Multiples of these athletes, trainers, and professionals in this industry who have been doing it for decades, who are on TV right now, who were not mentioned. And to me, that is a travesty and a crime. As well as, by that same token, not acknowledging those schools doesn't acknowledge the great talents that are coming out of there. I mean, you have these great representatives of Florida: Chelsea Durden, Kelsey Reagan, Robert Martyr, DMC, Mikey Spandex, who is currently signed in the WWE right now, Malik Blade, another Florida-born, signed to the WWE right now. All of these great talents. I could go on and on. I mean, Kakoa, Wheezy T, Logan Cruz of The Gifted, Daniel Starling, Ron Bass Jr. The list goes on and on and on. And it's, to me, at the very least, quite bothersome that my state has been given this reputation of, you know, the Chasen incidents and all this back and forth between these promoters, when you have so much raw, untapped potential and talent that exists here that is doing its best to try and change that reputation and change that narrative. But the loudest voices always went out simply because they're the loudest voices. And as I've said to you in a previous conversation, Duke, those loudest voices oftentimes aren't the ones that should be listened to. All I'm saying is, for me personally, the most important thing to keep in mind about all of these conversations and all of these stories is that while, yes, Florida does have its problems, and while, yes, there are things that need to be worked on, there is so much good here that I feel gets overlooked. And to me, as somebody who lives here, somebody who works here, and somebody who's trying to make part of their name here, it truly upsets me knowing that so many of my friends, colleagues, and fellow professionals don't get their just due simply because they're from here, or they go out of state and promoters try to tell them to change their billing simply because Florida has a bad reputation and people might think of you a certain way, when in reality, most of that just comes from this narrative that's being pushed by a lot of these bitter, jaded transplants that come down here and try to fulfill some egotistical fantasy that they have in their minds that this is it, this is their last vestige of relevancy, or whatever their motivations might be. And that, to me, isn't how I want my home to be remembered. That isn't how I want my state to be remembered. And that isn't what I want for the people that come after me that are here. The point of wrestling in 2022 is to leave wrestling better than how it was, to continuously evolve this sport and to continuously evolve this art form to better and higher places than where it currently is. And we cannot do that if we are continuously rehashing these same old narratives and not looking at ourselves objectively in the mirror and trying to make change. There's a lot of young talent. There's a lot of positives in this state, and there is so much good here that I think is just being overshadowed because old bitter men are going to do what old bitter men are going to do. Thank you so much for your time, Duke. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of so many people. I'm sure I'm going to catch hell for this, but you know what? It's not the first time, and it certainly won't be the last.
Shout out to Noah Vale. That was fantastic. And you know something, Noah Vale, we are going to have you on the show, okay? This is a formal invitation to Noah Vale. Let's shoot for directly after WrestleMania. I'm gonna have you come on the show and let's talk about your career, because I give you a lot of credit to put your state on your back and stick up for it and stand up for it. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to do that, and especially in such a, quite frankly, a volatile situation. I mean, we're talking about people's livelihood here. We're talking about the business, but we're also talking about your livelihood. So for you to speak up the way that you did, hey, man, I props to that. Props to that. So Noah Vale, definitely are welcome on the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast to talk about what you have going on. And listen, that's the name of the game. Open mic on this show, okay? In fact, there was one person whose name was mentioned a few times last week, and hey, he wanted to come back and have a conversation. So check this out, a rebuttal to what Michael El Reyy said from the man known as Stix. Listen, last week we had Michael El Reyy. This is a pro wrestler turned manager turned pro wrestling promoter from the East Coast who moved down there to Florida. And he took issue with the backlash that came from the This Is Chase and Rants interview series that we had here on Duke Loves Rasslin. Specifically, as a result of that interview series, the scene down there, according to Mr. El Reyy, has, been affected in a negative way, to the point where promoters are now accusing one another of doing business with Chase and Rants and using that as a way to get venues not to book certain promotions and certain promoters, therefore, which, ultimately can put a whole promotion out of business. So that's a general recap of the conversation that we had last week. But what was interesting is during the conversation, Michael El Reyy, in addition to naming Chase and Rants, in addition to naming different wrestling schools that he feels are reputable, and certainly I agree with him on the reputable wrestling schools, but he also named Jeremy Gomez of Generation Championship Wrestling as someone who may be behind the whole emails and giving him specifically a hard time. And he said some things about a guy who's been on the show numerous times, someone who I consider a friend of the show, Stix. So, Stix definitely reached out and let me know that, hey, that's not okay. So I would like an opportunity to express myself and share my perspective. And I said, damn, of course, of course. And let me just reiterate the point because it's very important. Duke Loves Rasslin is an open mic. Okay. And anyone who is someone that has something going on that I feel is newsworthy and something that I think the masses should hear, I'm not going to stop them. They can come on the show, they can express themselves. I'll ask a couple of questions and help them make sense of what they're trying to say. But the main idea is this: I'm not going to restrict anybody, because as fans, and even as other people in the industry, and as future people in the industry, we want to know what the hell's going on. So is Florida this cesspool of disaster, and the economy is drying up, especially for wrestling promotions because of all the shenanigans? Or was that not necessarily the case? I mean, we want to know. And furthermore, as it relates to Stix, I want to know, Stix, is this horrible person, this person who his time has passed him, this person who's up to no good in the wrestling industry? I want to know about that too, because this guy's been on the show numerous times. So I want to know what's really going on here. So without further ado, welcome back to the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, Stix. What's going on there, Stix?
How you doing, man? A little craziness out here, but
yeah, I'm doing pretty well, man. But I'm just gonna hit you straight with it, bro. I'm not gonna play games here. Are you some guy who's been up to some shenanigans, trying to take advantage of young people in the industry? When I say young, I'm talking people who are fresh in the industry, who may not know any better. Are you doing some kind of funny business there, Stix?
not at all. Not at all. Like, look, and this is a shoot, man. Like, I'm not working an angle. I'm not trying to get paid. None of that. I got enough money coming in. I don't need to chase it on a podcast. Listen, if someone comes to me as a talent and says, "Hey, what do you think about this, or this?" I'm certainly going to give my opinion. I will never, ever, 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 ever chase somebody down and be like, "Hey, you should do this. You should do this." I'm only 3.25 years in the business. Yes, I've worked 265 shows. Yes, I've worked for 20 companies. Yes, I've worked or called over 1,000 matches, but I am not an expert. Right. I don't claim to be an expert. I like to be around people smarter than me. That's how you get better at life in general, whether it's wrestling, whether it's business, whatever. Hang around people smarter than you. That's what I try to do every day of my life. I would never in my life try to negatively impact somebody's career, especially this, because wrestling is a dream, right? It's a pipe dream. You see it on TV and it changes you. When it hooks into you, it changes your life for so many different reasons, and we can get into that later. But for this guy, and let me start at the beginning. When I started in wrestling, I started in Daytona Beach at Go Wrestle in a medical warehouse. That's where we had our building. We ran every week. Every Friday we had shows. And I was fresh back from Chicago, no job. Finally got a job part-time, like super part-time at the club, a couple nights a week. So I was available on Fridays, right? So I reached out to the trainer and I said, "Hey, man, I'm a guy with cerebral palsy who's always wanted to be in wrestling. I don't know what I'm capable of. What do you think?" And he said, "Come on down. We'll see what's what." So I started ringing the bell. That's literally how I started in the business. Can you ring a bell? Yes. And then a couple weeks later, young professor was busy. Can you ring announce with 10 minutes notice? Here's the card. Yes, I can, because I have a broadcasting background. It's not hard for me to talk on a microphone. It's one of my many skills. Michael El Reyy comes in, fills in for young professor, I think maybe 3 or 4 times. I got no problems with the dude, but that's how I know him, right? We don't hang out together. I don't know his mama. I didn't go to his kid's quinceañera. We don't roll like that. So for him to come on a podcast, your podcast specifically, because I consider you an actual friend. I consider you to be one of my friends. To come on your show and say the things that he did about me specifically We can get into all the other stuff about where I've worked and why I don't work there anymore and why people don't want to work with me. That it's wrong. It's just wrong, man. And I'm gonna try and not get upset, but I have no reason. First of all, I have not now, nor would I ever attack somebody's business ever in my life. I have two rules. I live by two simple rules. Everything else is negotiable. Don't mess with my family. Don't mess with my money. If I live by those two rules, if those are the two cornerstone rules of my life, why would I go out of my way to hurt somebody else's pocket?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you there. That's a fair point. Let's take it point by point that he made about you. You heard what Michael El Reyy said about you. Let's,
I listened to it 3 times.
3 times.
I listened to
Wow.
it 3 times because
Okay.
the first time I listened to it, out of you sent me it. You said, "Hey, listen to this. Bro talks about you." Okay. First time I got really mad. Second time I was on my way home from the club. I was like, let me just listen to this objectively, right? As just a listener and just see how I feel about it. And then I listened to it a third time for facts. So go ahead. Wherever you want to start, we'll start.
I want to skip over most of the other stuff and focus on what was said about you in particular. When you heard your name for the first time, did it surprise you that Michael El Reyy would name you at all?
So yes and no. I'm gonna say yes because I don't have a beef with this dude. I got no beefs with nobody, right? Um, if you pay me to be somewhere, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show out. I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna go home. I don't get involved in drama. I don't care about it. I'm too busy trying to get where I need to be. And no, I'm not surprised on the fact that a couple months ago, I want to say January, he reaches out to me. It was a Friday night. I was at the club. He tried to call me. He tried to call me on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger, and I declined the call because I was at work. It's Friday night in a strip club. We're busy. So then he sends me a message. He says, "Hey, can we talk?" And I said, "What's up, man?" So then he lays out everything he laid out on your show. Jeremy sent these emails, blah, blah, blah. And he heard through the grapevine that I was a part of it. I don't have time to send emails to Detroit to destroy your business. Let me just be straight up. First of all, I've never heard of his promotion. That's not a joke. I've never seen him promote about it. I've never seen him talk about it. I know where he works as a talent. I didn't know he had a promotion. I didn't know. This man could drink whiskey with the devil. I would not care. But he came to me a couple months ago, so he laid it all out. So everything he said on your show, and I denied it, emphatically denied it. And then he comes on your show 4 months later, 3 months later, and says the same shit.
The part about the economy down there, especially for wrestling promotions, I mean, is any of that stuff true? Or is the indie scene down in Florida drying up?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. So he is of the impression that nobody draws. He said that over and over. Nobody draws. Nobody draws. Nobody draws. That's not true. Come to USWA in Jacksonville on April 30th and see if that's not a full house. They sell out every show they do. He's right about ARW and Alex Red. They sell out every show they promote, and I'm happy for him. I'm so happy. Every time I see a full house, brother, I'm stoked. But in specifics with the Generation Championship Wrestling, a couple months ago, we had the Diamond Cup, which is an all-female show. And we had it in Tampa at the Egypt Shrine Center. There was a couple hundred people there. You know how I know that? I was there. I was calling the whole show. So to say that, and think about like Kim from Ignite. We always have decent crowds. They're not huge, but it's not like 10 people. It's not 20 people like he alleges.
So you could be the exceptions to the rule. And maybe he's speaking about the majority of promotions that he sees. I mean, you're Stix, you make your rounds. I know that you work for different promotions all over, not just in Florida. You ventured out and what have you. But as a state, in terms of pro wrestling, you don't feel that the economy is so bad that no one is being able to draw, that people are lucky if they get 30 people within their crowd at a time, unless you're one of these bigger names that works directly with WWE, AEW. You don't feel that that's the case?
I don't believe that. I mean, maybe that's the way it is on his side of the state. And Florida's a big state, right? And I don't work everywhere in Florida. Let me just be real. I don't work for every promotion. But there's also a reason for that. Like, I work where I know I'm going to be showcased and successful. I'm not, and I know that it's hard out there for everybody now, right? Gas is absurd, right? So to drive down the road, to go 100 miles for a show could be expensive for some guys. So in that sense, is the business hurting? Maybe, because wrestlers, we're independent contractors, man. We pay for our own trans, we pay for our own food. You know what I mean? Like, so in that sense, is the business hurting? Of course, it's hurting everybody, everywhere, all people, no matter what you do. Are there companies that draw small? Yeah, but I think there's a way to fix it. Florida is a wrestling state. Florida, for the longest time, since wrestling was a thing, has been a major territory. Just go back and look at the history of wrestling. Florida has always been a wrestling state. And in the sense that, like, promoters don't want to work with each other, I don't know why that is. In my mind, if you want to make money, you get together in a room, you put all the smartest minds in the room, and you talk it out, and you book the whole territory. What are you guys doing in Sarasota? Okay, let's do this in Miami. What are you doing in Jacksonville? Okay, let's do this in Tampa. But it doesn't work like that anymore, right? Everything is, for lack of a better term, a pissing contest, because everybody thinks that they know better than the next guy. And is that right? I don't think so at all, because if we were to look at the state of Florida by itself, like the NWA back in the day when they had monthly meetings and all the bookers from all the different territories got in a room and talked about what was going on everywhere. Say you did that. Say you had a Florida Wrestling Council, right? Just for, let's make believe for a minute. Say you had a Florida Wrestling Council and you put all of the minds of wrestling in one room and got them to agree to listen to each other speak. We'd all be rich. This could be the Mecca of wrestling, because it is a big state. There's plenty of room for everybody to run everywhere. The problem is stuff like this. I got to listen to a podcast about a guy biting over here because he's upset about this and upset about then nobody draws and nobody comes to see me and I can't promote. And I don't get it, man.
What's a potential solution here? Because look, this is a podcast, right? Again, this is a place where news can be discussed. I like to go directly to the sources. I don't like to just talk about rumors and nonsense there. I want to get as close to the truth as possible. And I'd like my audience to hear from the people being discussed so that they can make their own mind up about who they believe, who they support, what have you. I'm not going to beat anybody over the head with my opinion, because that doesn't really matter. And just because you're somebody who's been on the show and friend of the show, friend of mine, that doesn't mean I'm going to treat you favorably either. If you're full of crap, you're full of crap. If you're not, you're not.
Right.
And I think that's the way that we maintain our integrity here on Duke Loves Rasslin. So where do we go from here? Because you got some guy who's upset, and clearly he says he loves you, but he also is pissed off at you, which is interesting because it's two completely conflicting emotions there. Are you and Michael El Reyy all right? Like, is this going to continue to be a problem, at least from your perspective, or is it water under the bridge for you?
Look, man, I said this before. I don't have time for this crap. I really don't. And like, I'm not trying to big time the guy. Like, I understand he's going through a lot. He feels attacked, and he thinks for whatever reason I have something to do with it. Um, Let me just say this about Jeremy and Generation Championship Wrestling. I enjoy working there. Um, we get a lot of views on YouTube. Go look at Title Match Network. Check the views. I promise. Um, I like the fan base. I like, you know what I mean. But like, if Jeremy Gomez ever came to me as a man to man, and said, "Hey, I need you to help me blow up somebody's business," I tell him to blow it out his ass, because that's not what I'm about. That's really not what I'm about. And you can say I leer or I lurk at indie shows. I don't go anywhere I'm not getting paid. Let me just be real clear. I don't hang out at indie shows. I don't. He said in uh, a couple months back, you can go back on his Facebook and look, unless he deleted it. Michael had gone on these rants about who deserves a shot and why this person's working dark. They're not experienced enough, blah, blah, blah. And after, I don't know, a couple weeks of seeing it, I just went, man, like, shut up and work harder. Like, you want to be where they're at, just work harder. And he called me to the carpet, and he, said I was being inappropriate at shows and like leering at female talent and stuff. And then he comes in my messages and said, "Oh, it's a work, brother. It's a work. It's a work. I'm working." Like, okay, brother, but I don't need to. Naked women hand me money on a nightly basis. Like, I don't need to leer at women. Like, I got a girlfriend with tits as big as your head who I haven't seen in 2 months because I'm busy working, not sending emails about who he hangs out with and all. I don't care. Brother, let me just break this down to you. And as a reputable journalist, you tell me if this makes sense. Okay. January. This was my January just in wrestling, aside from 4, 5, 6 nights at the club. You ready? Jacksonville for NWA, by the way. Vero, Tampa, back to Jacksonville. That was my January. 2 more shows in February. Now, I just signed with one of the largest talent agencies in the world. 99 Talent Agency just offered me a deal to represent me, to do commercials and voiceovers and movies. And we just finished Bike Week in Daytona. I worked 6 days straight. Before that was race weeks in Daytona. I worked 10 days straight. When would I have time? I don't have time to see my girl. I don't have time to see her kid. I live in a house with my mother who I haven't seen because I'm busy. I'm out here trying to make my life what it is going to be. I have no beef with that kid. You want to be successful, brother? I'm going to tell you the same thing everybody ever told me. Work for it. Shut up and work. Push it. Drive. I also train 5 days a week. I'm in the gym 5 days a week. I haven't rolled in jiu-jitsu in a couple months because I've been so busy. Because my mom had some health issues and I was worried about that. And then I had to work. Like, dude, I got no beef with this guy. And let me just be real clear. My time is up when they make me dust. When they put my body in a furnace and turn me to ash, my time is up. I will get where I'm going to be because I will work for it. I'm going to earn it every day of my life. Whether he believes it or not, I don't care. You don't want to come to me for advice? Don't ask me questions. Don't send me matches. I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I want to be. I will be. I'm going to be great at this. That's a declaration of fact. I'm going to be great at this. But I will not sit by and let guys like Michael El Reyy, who frankly not a lot of people have heard of, talk trash about me, attack my character. I'm a scumbag. I get paid to be a scumbag. I know that. But as a man, don't come at me like that, dude. I'm not trying to fight you. This is not me talking big. I don't want to slap fight you. None of that. I got no beef with you. I wish you nothing but the best. I said this to him in a message. I said, I got nothing, no qualms with you, dude. I wish you nothing but the best, but you're wrong. You're straight wrong. You want to know why I left FEW? I'm going to tell you why I left FEW. We were working FEW. Matt and I were booked for FEW to do TV tapings for them. And we go down. I would get off at 3 in the morning on Fridays. Get to Matt's house at 4. We would leave at 5. Drive there, get there at 10, have a production meeting, write the episodes. We do 4 episodes a day. So on this particular Saturday morning, we get there, we start the production meeting. Matt had an interview to do for another show, so he's in his car doing an interview. Chasen walks in. Chasen Rants walks in, shakes my hand. He's got this big grin on his face. He's got some of his kids with him. So we book the episodes. Matt comes back and we're still in a meeting, and I text Matt and he sees Chasen, and I texted him, and this is exactly what I texted him. What the fuck? So then we finish the meeting. Matt and I are sitting by the ring. Matt's like, dude, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here if he's here. And I said, I agree with you 100%. I don't want my name on it. I don't need to be around it. Because if anybody that knows of Chasen, he's a weasel. So he's going to find a way to be on camera, right? So he'll sit on hard camera side, so his face is on camera, dude. Look, if that, we can't be associated with that. He's a teacher, I'm what I am, whatever. But we go to JB, him and I and one other person who I won't mention because I don't want to drag him into this. We're standing in the parking lot in Miami. And we're saying to JB, brother, you don't need these kids. You don't need Chasen. You don't need his people. And we rebooked all 4 shows in the parking lot in 20 minutes. And then he was like, JB says, well, I got to pay him. Da, da, da. And Matt and I both looked at him and said, keep our money. We'll work for free. That's how much we didn't want to work with Chasen Rants. So then he's like, okay, I'll take care of it. We go back inside. 4 hours go by. And nothing changes. So Matt, we're sitting at the desk now. Now the lights are on. We're about to record. We're suited and booted. We're ready to go. There's a camera in our face. Matt looks at JB and says, so we're not changing this? There's no changes? And JB says, well, it's too late now. And Matt says, well, then we got to go. And we got up and we left. We drove back from Miami to Palm Coast in suits because we didn't want to work with Chasen Rants. I got no beef with JB. Let me tell you the truth about JB Cool. Say what you want to say about his associations. And here's how I look at dirt, because everybody has done dirt. Everybody has done things they're not proud of, right? If you don't rape anybody, kill anybody, or you're a pedophile and you don't directly affect my life in a negative way, as long as you don't preach about it and shove it in my face, we're probably going to be all right. I saw JB at the NWA show in Jacksonville, and I came up to him. I said, look, man, I hope there's no hard feelings about us walking out. And this was over a year ago now, right? So I said, I hope there's no hard feelings. I got no heat with you. And he shook my hand and he said, I respect you for what you did. You had to do what you had to do. So we walked out, right? And then he wants to talk about Magic City. Michael brings up why I don't work for Magic City. Magic City is an offshoot of FEW. JB's partner decided to part ways. They started their own promotion. I got mad respect for Vinny. I call him my cousin for a reason, because if you know Vinny's real story about why he is the way he is, you'd respect him too. I'm not going to speak on that here. That's none of my business. Alex G, got mad respect for that guy too. Listen to Alex G talk. I promise you'll learn something about wrestling. I promise. I went to them aside from Matt because Matt was doing other things. Young Professor was doing other things. And I said, hey, you guys need anything? You want me to manage? You want me to come down and commentate? They don't need me. No hard feelings. I'm not mad about it. You don't want to use me? Don't use me. I got no heat with that. But to come on here and say, oh, I don't want to work with certain talent, that's not true. I'll work with anybody except for Chasen Rants, except for other people I know to be illicit in the young people arena. Let's just put it like that. I don't need that in my life. I'm good. So I don't know where he's getting his information from. I don't care, but it's wrong.
Well,
I'm not too good to work for anybody. The money's right. Guess what? I'm going to be there with bells on.
Well, hey, at least you're here to lay out your perspective, man. I respect it. a ton there. Stix, why don't you let everybody know the best way that they can keep up with you, especially if anyone would like to see what you have going on since you're doing all these big things. I mean, congratulations, signing with one of the top talent agencies out there. It's you done blown up, bro.
It's crazy, man. It really is. And to let me just back up for a second because I wanted to just say this. I got a chance to call matches with Joe Galley from the NWA. As a kid who studied wrestling, not like just was a fan, but like was obsessed with it, to sit there under the NWA banner and call matches for their worldwide television distribution. I was 12 years old again, man. It was crazy. And if I wasn't capable, if my time had passed, they wouldn't have put me in that position. I don't understand where this guy's coming from. I'm sorry that he dragged his drama onto your show. I'm glad that I had the chance to come on here and clear things up, at least tell my side of things. But if you want to reach out to me, real easy. Ken Stix Ray on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, all the same, at StixMan92. That's STIX Man92. Duke, I just want to say thank you, brother. And Florida wrestling is way better off than Michael El Reyy seems to think.
Thank you once again, Stix. And hey, look, you make up your own mind how you feel, what you think, what have you there, but that is just a lot of perspective on a wrestling scene, and I hope everybody can get it together. I mean, I said it before, and I'll say it again. I just hope that everybody can get it together because the fans deserve it, the wrestlers deserve it, the promoters deserve it, the whole community that is pro wrestling, we deserve it. And Florida is so important. It literally is the wrestling capital of the world, so we can't have that area failing. And we certainly can't have that area being successful and people claiming that it's failing. So somehow, some way, we just all need to be clear on what's going on down there. And if things are not going so well, then we got to fix it. And if things are going great, then we need to continue to do more of the things that make it great, right? But no limbo. There's no reason to have limbo because there's more than enough to go around. So I hope folks get it together and get it straightened out. And I look forward to seeing more success down there in Florida. That's right. Duke Loves Rasslin, Facebook, Twitter, DukeLovesRasslin@gmail.com. Wherever you're listening to this show, please give me a review, 5 stars. Give me a 5-star review. You know how it is here, man. We just give you the straight up conversation directly from the sources. We don't play games here, all right? There's none of that nonsense that you're going to hear in some other places where they want to talk about rumors. They want to make up stuff and pass it on as fact. Okay, you know the usual suspects. And it's funny. Let me tell you something. I've noticed something interesting. Since the latest rounds of WWE releases, I've noticed that a lot of these insiders, they're getting plenty wrong. You notice that? They're saying things and they're trying to break news and they've just been completely off base. They're just being completely wrong. Why is that? I have a theory about that. Within the latest rounds of WWE releases, and I'm not talking about wrestlers either, I'm talking about behind the scenes people. Some of those folks who were released, I wonder if they were some of the big leakers for folks like Juicy Juice and Paywall Jesus and the rest of their clan of merry humanoids. I wonder about that because suddenly all those folks, they keep missing the mark. You notice that? It's very interesting. But you know who has not missed? Brad Shepard. Somehow, some way, Brad Shepard is still breaking news out there, folks. Brad just broke news the other day that WWE Shop and, Phonetics, they entered into a deal. So WWE Shop is going to be completely taken over by Phonetics, and this is a company that makes sports apparel for different sports leagues here. So the fact that WWE was able to bring them in, that's a big deal. So kudos to Brad for breaking another big story there, but it's just a reminder that, some of these folks who want to do paywall nonsense and they want to lie to you. They want to say nonsense. Hey, the latest on Cody Rhodes is that he could be in the WWE or he could not be. But if he is, then that. Come on, stop it. You don't know anything. Stop it, Juicy Juice. Stop it, Paywall Jesus. Stop deceiving people. Okay? Maybe if you took more time to go directly to the sources and get them on the record and have real conversations, you wouldn't have to sit here and sell all that snake oil that you keep selling. Stop insulting the intelligence of the listeners, of the fans, of the community. Stop leeching and start giving. Imagine that. That's all we do here, Jack. You better believe it. Once again, shout out to Thunder Rosa, my world champion, your world champion, our world champion. Thank you to Noah Vale. Thank you to Stix. And thank you to you for listening. All right. Till next time, be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
This is Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Rasslin.